Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the April meeting of the Nevada County Camera Club. Glad to see you all here. So we're going to get started. I've got several announcements to make, and I know there's some other people that do also. So first off, I think a number of you have heard about Shelley Carlisle's accident at Table Mountain, and had an email from Shelley, and she says, to quote, she's doing darn well considering. And she's going to see an orthopedic surgeon tomorrow and then get stitches and staples out. But she seems to be, weathering the injuries well. Rachel's not here tonight. She asked me to relay several messages to you. One is to thank all who participated in the Granucci exhibit. The highest number of members ever participating, and 5 pieces were sold. So congratulations to everybody that participated, and especially to those of you that were able to sell a piece. Pickup, if you have a picture at the Granucci, the pickup is tomorrow between 8 and noon at the Center for the Arts. And if you can't make it, or you can't make arrangements for somebody else to pick up your picture, Rachel's going to take it home with her and hang it on her wall. So photo walks. How many of you attended the photo walk the other day? Oh, cool. All right. And how'd that go? Oh, okay. Yeah. Anita, you went? You shot wild horses and then you went? Yeah. Wow. You go, girl. And then there'll be a photo walk Saturday, this coming Saturday at 9:30 at Empire Mine State Park. I guess you meet in the parking lot, and there's a $5 fee to get into the park. So 9:30 this coming Saturday, another photo walk. Where are we? And Rachel said to thank everybody that was on the planning committee, which was Ray, Kathy, Ann, Ellen, Donna, Shelby, and myself. Next announcement, Dave McClellan, who's also not here tonight, his band, Sons of Boogie, will be playing at the 1849 Brewery from 8 to 11 this coming Saturday night. So you could do a photo walk Saturday morning and see Dave's band play Saturday night. So it's all good. We have revised the photojournalism description. So I'm not going to read it all to you tonight, but it will be on the website. It'll be updated on our website. So for those of you that maybe are not aware, if you go, you can see the different photo categories that we have available. And you can read a description about those categories and also the restrictions that apply when you enter a picture in those categories. So if you enter pictures in the photojournalism category, please read the description and read the restrictions before you enter a picture. And I just want to point out that the title of your picture is going to be really, really important. So you will be critiqued not only on the image, but also on the title. So keep that in mind if you're going to be entering photos in the photojournalism category. Hanno, you're up. So Hanno's our membership chair, and we'll see what he's got to say. Yeah. So, okay.
Where do you find the description of the categories?
Okay, the question was, where do you find the description of a category? And the answer is, it's on the website someplace. So first off, you got to log in. You log in, and then if you go down to, I think it's meeting meeting images. I don't know, it's on there someplace. Kathy knows. Can you know? Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, yes. Yeah, I'm Hanu, the membership chair. So right now it looks like we have 150 members, 2 new members. There's 52 people tonight here that I've counted. And yeah, so 2 new members. Two new members. Don Baldwin, would you like to just say a couple of words how you got into photography? Share. Not yet, okay. And I also have Ramona Howard. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica? Monica Hughes, are you here?
Hello, everybody. So my announcement is we are having a speed exhibit at the Edward Jones office, taking over for Shelley. So this has been a little bit of a challenge pulling something together so quick, but so many people are interested. It's the ICM, International Intentional Camera Movement. And it'll be myself, Deanne Donnelly, Anita Dupratt, Donna Levereau, Mike Weitzman, Charlotte Peterson, Tom Quinn, and Ann Westling. So it starts May 2nd into June, and the opening ceremony reception is May 2nd at 4 to 6. So I hope everyone can come, bring your friends. And if I missed anybody, please let me know, because we have this crazy email chain going on. So, and then I also thought maybe during the halftime, we could all meet in the back. Who's here? Okay. Yes, Janice. Yes, I don't know why your name isn't, but we'll square it up. So yeah, anyway, that's it. Oh, yeah. Emails.
Sharon?
Thank you. I have some panels that I'm wanting to find a new home for. They're pro panels. I have 8 that are 30 inches by 36, 2 that are 16 by 30, one that's 30 by 32, and the 2 that are 15 by 32. The 2 are these 2 here. It makes a trifold. So anyway, they're for gallery panels to display your artwork. And if anyone's interested, please let me know. They're going to be at bargain prices. So I'm sure Rose.
Oh, sure. Here, go. Here you go. So this little gem has been around this club a few times. I think Anne had it, gave it back to me. And so it's open. It's out there for anybody who wants it. And if there's more than one person, we'll do rock, paper, scissors or something, right? Anybody here right now know they want it? Emily? Anybody else? It's new. It's from, come on, help me out here. Think Tank, thank you. And that it was donated to the club. Oh, there you go. So anybody besides Emily? Going, gone. It's Emily's.
Anybody else have an announcement they'd like to make? David?
I have a thing back there for those that want to go to Iceland with me in the winter. I have 5 more slots left. Believe it or not, there are people that have already signed up for this in February 1st, but it'll be, take a look at it. That's then I have a couple of one free thing. I have May 15th, I'm gonna have another slideshow at the library, the community center. I'm gonna have both Africa trips from this last year, and along with a bunch of other people that'll show theirs. And then if you want to attend at Viewpoint, I'm teaching a matting and workshop on how to cut mats, do all that stuff for with your photos. The 18th. Okay, that's a Saturday, but you have to register through Viewpoint for that. I think that's all I have.
Hi, I'd like to invite you all to a a show that's occurring at the Lucchese Tasting Room on Mill Street in downtown Grass Valley. And there are 6 of us that are showing there. It'll probably go for about 3 or 4 more weeks. We did have an opening, and I'm kind of proud to say that the opening on Friday, some of you came. And if you need a reference, we had a really good response. We had 80 people come on the to the Friday show. So love to see you. It's open almost every afternoon from about 12 to 7. Lucchese Chase Room, beautiful little brick building downtown.
Anybody else?
So my exhibit, Curiosity Killed the Camera, is happening in the month of May at the Courtyard Suites. The reception is May 4th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Dress funky.
Yeah, get my exercise tonight.
So I have a Sigma 150 to 600 lens. It's the contemporary model. I've had it for a couple of years. It's a great lens, but it's too heavy for me. And so I'm selling it for $500. If you go to B&H, it's slightly under $1,000. So it's a pretty good deal, I think. If anyone's interested, I actually have it in my car if you want to look at it.
Anyone else before I walk back up front? Okay. Grace?
Thanks, Mike. It's kind of good timing that I want to acknowledge, first of all, the photojournalism category was updated with a lot of work from Ann Westling, who really worked hard to refine and update it. So thank you to Ann for that. And it is good timing because tonight we have with us an award-winning photojournalist, Randall Benton, who is returning. I know he has been here before, but I didn't get to see him, and probably a lot of the rest of you didn't because it's been a while. So we are excited to welcome him back. So while photography has been Randall's profession since 1988, it has been his passion for a lot longer, in fact, for nearly 60 years. He's worked as a staff photographer for the Sacramento Bee from 1997 until retiring in 2018. As a senior photographer for the paper, he documented a rich and diverse cross-section of life in Northern California. He's photographed the NBA, NFL, PGA, and WBC. He's also photographed luminaries such as Stephen Hawking, Barack Obama, Elton John, and the Pope. He's shot from helicopters, inside tiger cages. I would love to hear more about that. In underwater caves and in burning buildings. And today he still works as a freelance photographer for the Associated Press. His photos have won numerous awards from the San Francisco Bay Area Press Photographers Association, the California Newspaper Publishers Association, National Press Photographers Association, Pictures of the Year International, and the prestigious World Press Photo. Please join me in welcoming Randall Benton back as our guest tonight.
Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. You make me sound pretty good. How many of you were here last time I was here? It was about 10 years ago. Okay, so you came back. I probably have some new photos at least. I'm gonna take this off here. Here we go. So I'll start by how I kind of found myself doing photojournalism style. I would go, let me get this going here. Oh, hold on here. I get this up to a full. Yeah, you can see that. So I used to take pictures of scenics, things like that when I was first really getting involved in photography, and I would come back and look at the prints,
and be a little disappointed. And it took me a long time to realize that, for me at least, what I was photographing were backgrounds or frames. And so I started to add people to the frames, right? And so I would find a place that I liked. I would, see a scene that I thought was pretty, and I would stand and wait until someone walked through it. And I've done these in reverse. These are the photos that I took with the people in them. I took them out in Photoshop to make the illustration. But this is my approach to scenics, is to wait for people. And it didn't matter what they were doing, who they were, what behavior they had, just so long as there was a human body in there. And at some point, even animals. A kid on a skateboard, a bicyclist, somebody just scratching their head, it didn't matter. So a lot of these photos here are pictures that I took for the paper. This one, I waited 40 minutes. 40 minutes. I stood in one spot. People would come by and look at this waterfall, and I'd think out loud, go over there, right? But I can't, as a photojournalist, I can't coerce anybody. I can't ask people to do things for me. It has to be authentic, has to be real. So I would wait and wait and wait. And finally, this guy and his son came by. The same thing here. I waited for a long, long time. This was a weather picture. The weather was bad and things were breaking. So I don't know if you agree with me, but having a person in there makes a big, big difference. It kind of gives you a vicarious experience to what's going on in the frame. It's kind of a subconscious thing, and it's subtle, but for me, everything's got to have a person in it. And so I used to do this, just go out and wait, find a place. This is just a blue plywood wall. I saw this guy coming with a red hat, and I thought, well, that'll be colorful. So I waited. All of these, really, without the person, not much of a photo to me. It's a tiny element, but that's all it takes. People, I took this photo, when the weather gets bad, the bee would say, get out there and get pictures of the weather. So it was a snowy day, and I thought, okay, I'm driving around and I'm looking to make pictures. People are shoveling their driveways, and okay, it's kind of snowy. I went down to Placerville, and if you've ever been to Placerville, behind Main Street, there's a parking garage, and in between is this alley, and that's what this is. So I get up on the second story of the parking garage, and I waited and waited. People would come by, people on their cell phones. I took a few pictures, but the umbrella really kind of helped for me. And this is among the bee photographers, the umbrella in the weather is kind of a cliche, but we lean on that when the editors want the weather picture, right? So I turned it in, and the next day I go open my email, and just flooded with emails. And I thought, what happened? I get spammed with, but there were like 65 emails that day. Normally I'll get 1 or 2 emails commenting on my photos in a year. This was, so everybody loved this. They couldn't, were baffled by where it was, and it looks kind of painterly. So I had to learn to love it all myself, but that's the technique. So now there's 3 basic areas of discipline within photojournalism: news, sports, and what they call features, which is the slice of life stories, the human interest stories, and just about anything that isn't sports or news. So with news, it's just what you think. It's straightforward stuff, pictures of the newsmakers making the news, but there is still a certain art to be had. It's not entirely utilitarian, and there's an approach to things. This was Jerry Brown. He was submitting, what do they call them? Petitions, yes, at the registrar's office. And I knew there would be a lot of press there. Obviously, there's a lot of press there. I was the only one that knew that he would be facing the counter. And so I went behind the counter and took this picture. Depending on your politics, we can only hope. Okay, I'll keep politics out. You know, I was telling somebody that they asked me, you know, what party affiliation I have. I don't have one. I chose to not to declare a party affiliation because I try to be as impartial in my work as possible, and hopefully, anyone looking at my work as a journalist won't be able to guess. So that's my goal. So I try to keep it even. I stay out of it. One of the things about photojournalism is I like having people in there. I like having people predominantly in the frame, and sometimes that means being really close. I shoot with a wide angle lens most of the time, a 17 to 35. I like to get in really close to people's faces so that they are prominent in the frame, but there's still enough wide angle to draw in, include storytelling elements. So I've never, it never ceases to amaze me how close you can get to somebody that they don't, they're not self-conscious. They'll allow you to get in really close. I'm, you know, within a foot or so of this woman. The thing I liked about this photo, it's really not a particularly great photo, but with photography, of course, you often want to have patterns in your image. And I don't know if you guys see the pattern here. Anyone? Not the ties. All their arms are. They must be walking in step with each other. A lot of times, what makes it, let me back up. This was a police officer that was killed in the line of duty. So it was a big news event at the time. His funeral, we had, the Bee had probably 6 photographers assigned to cover it. And there were photographers inside the church, some on the outside. And so the day before, I contacted the proprietor of the building across the street and asked him if he could let me up onto the roof, because I imagined a shot like this. And so I think it's a powerful image, and one you couldn't get any other way at the time. That's before they had drones. But anyway. The officer didn't warn me he was going to pull his gun out. And so it startled me. I had a second or two to just frame this. And what I like about this is that the officer's head is cut off, but the person in the doorway's body is cut off. So there's a sort of a poetic continuity there. This got the CHP into some trouble because it looks like he's pointing a gun at this guy's face. He's not. I shot this with a 600mm lens from across the street, and they were stopping. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds about the story, but there had been a shooting, they chased the guy into this neighborhood and they blocked off the road and were searching all the cars as they came out, make sure he wasn't stowed away in a trunk or whatever. So from that angle and from that distance, it does look like he's pointing the gun at him, but he actually is not. He's pointing it towards the back seat or something like that. It's just the angle. Makes for a powerful photo. This was I think it was the largest oak tree in California that just split in someone's front yard. It just fell apart. This was, if I remember right, this was over in off of American River Drive and Howe Avenue, over in that neighborhood there.
You didn't hit the house.
No. Yeah. This is up at Shasta Dam. The Indian tribe up there, I forget the name of the tribe, had a war dance. The federal government was going to raise the level of the lake or drop the level. It was something that they were opposed to, and so they had the war dance there. Another thing that I gravitate to, and it started when I was judging a photo contest. At the end, I'm looking at the winners, and I made a comment, half joking. I said, "Look at this! All the winners, in some manner or another, somebody in the frame has got their hand on their head." And I said, "So that's how you win a contest, is it?" Well, I thought about it, and I started looking at my pictures and other people's pictures, and sure enough, a good number of them. And I realized that when people feel something strongly, it's a reflex. Their hands go up to their head in a million different ways. But how it's poisoned me now is that if I see somebody's hand going near their head, I start shooting like a maniac. Oh, there's the winner. Right, so. Oh, there's a car that had crashed and was upright. And it just was mashed up really bad. The guy was going 70 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood and flipped and ended up there. Pay attention to how many times you see a hand on a head in these photos. So, although most of the news photos are utilitarian and they're kind of straightforward, I keep reminding myself that there is room for some sort of artistic expression, even within those kinds of situations. So, I love the way the sunlight works in smoke. And so I'm covering this fire, and I thought, I could see it sort of happening through the trees. So I wait for the guy to walk by, put the camera down low, and use his shadow as my guide, and I just motor drive away. Probably half of the pictures that I take that get published, I'm not actually looking through the viewfinder. The last one, for example, I had held down. This one, I'm holding it over my head. It seems like a cheap trick, but sometimes it's the only way. I'm not very tall, so a lot of times that's the only way to get it. But to kind of compose a picture like this with this expressive face in the foreground and the crowd behind him, if I had looked through the viewfinder, I would have just seen him and not the crowd he's leading. So. One Republican, one Democrat. I know. I see. I have to get their names too. All these people that are in the photos, I need to stop and ask them for their name. They need to spell it for me so I get it right in the paper. These guys were pretty hot, and I had to chase the guy down. I tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around and I thought he was gonna hit me. No, just need your name. This is Tom McClintock. This was inside. This was, I don't know, they didn't like Tom McClintock.
Questions you want us to ask?
Absolutely, yeah, I love that. If you have a question or a comment, just shout it out.
Have to get their names if they're facing.
Randall, would you repeat that question?
Yeah, he asked if I had to get their names if they're facing away from me. Probably not. The kind of the rule is that if they are the subject of the photo and are identifiable in the photo, we need to get their name. Sometimes people don't want to give it, and it's an editor's call whether to say a person who didn't want to be identified, but usually they'll just say, get it done, find another photo. So if the picture is of a specific person, yeah, we need to know who it is. If the picture, if one comes up, I'll point it out to you, but there's sometimes where the image is really of the overall scene with a person in it. Well, we may not have to get their name for that. I didn't have to get their names. I just say, you know, peace officers. His name we get from the from the police. So it is kind of awkward. Now, this was a couple that was supposed to have gotten married the day after I took this photo. This is up in Reading. I think it was the car fire a few years ago that burned up the whole neighborhood, including their home. And this was the first day they were allowed back into the neighborhood to see, and their home was just flattened. So I try to be delicate, take these pictures from a distance, but eventually I have to go up and find out who they are. And it seems like people will object. They don't know normally. It's really amazing that the preconception that I had about people's readiness to open themselves up to the press, that really isn't what I have found in my experience. We've had to go to people's homes whose sons were killed in wars overseas and just cold call, knock on the door, hi, we're the press, can we come in and talk to you in your worst possible moment? They're happy to bring us in. They're happy to talk. It's not like how you would imagine that they'd be offended by the press. But,
What about photos of kids? So you had that little girl sitting up on the shoulders.
well, I asked the parents, if I take a picture of a child, I ask the child, is your parents here? And I asked the, you know, introduce me to your mom, right? And then I ask mom, tell her what I'm doing. I don't think I've ever had trouble with that sort of thing.
Nothing in writing, you didn't ever have.
No, for legitimate news publications, we don't need as long as they're in public view, in public spaces, and I take the picture from public spaces that I'm legally allowed to be in, we don't need to have model releases, just their name, identify them, that's it. Hand on head.
Got all their names, right?
Yes, one by one. I'm still working on the third guy from the left, but he'll come around. I'm sorry? This is Woman's March. That's it. It's not the Golden Gate. That's the I Street Bridge at the end of the. So this is from the steps of the Capitol in Sacramento. Are you? I don't know how you couldn't be. Look at this. This is a crowd. I've never seen a crowd that big there. Yeah. So it's almost like an annual event, the first drowning in the rivers in Sacramento. So, okay, here it is. It's in May or June or whatever it is. Go out there, there's somebody drowned. Yeah. So sports. Sports has its own kind of needs, I suppose. With team sports, you always want to get peak action at the high peak of competition. And well, editing through, you might see some nice photos, but the editors and readers want to see an offense, defense, and the ball. An offensive player, a defensive player, you know, that's the actual conflict, and the ball or the puck or whatever is that thing that they're competing over. So the photos really have to have those three elements: the offense, defense, ball. Individual sports like this, I still try to keep both the competitors in there. I like this photo. Hey, apparently he got one hand on the head too many. So offense, defense, ball, and a face. It's always good if you can get a good facial expression in sports too, because facial expressions are what tell the story, whether it's sports or anything else. So good expressions, you know, that moment, if you can get them in sports, it's really helps sell it. This is not professional sports, but I covered everything. This guy had the world's record for the bench press, and if I'm not mistaken, was like 600 pounds, something like that. It was just ridiculous. Offense, defense, ball.
Are you using a long photo in most all of these?
Most of them, yeah. Sports, even though you can stand on the sidelines, if you think about a football field, even if you're on the sidelines, it's 50 yards to the middle, and you need a long lens. So I usually, for football, I have like a 400 or a 600 that I like to use. For baseball, a 400 works pretty well. For these, it's like a 200. Yeah.
So your life must have really changed drastically going from film to digital.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it changed it most when it went from manual focus to autofocus. I used to cover the 49ers back in the 80s with film and manual focus with a 600 millimeter lens. And I'd get back and I'd go look through, I'd shoot maybe 6 rolls of film, however many that is, 200 frames, and go through, and it didn't matter what the content was. If I found one in focus, that's the one they ran. Now they're mostly in focus, and I have the luxury of picking a better moment, right? So yeah, I love covering sports, and this is rugby. Rugby's fun. This was a story. The woman on the right is a kindergarten teacher. And I thought, well, that's a story. She's a professional boxer. I think this was her last fight, though. Her first fight was her last fight. With boxing, this is MMA, but it's the same. you got to shoot a lot because you never know when that knockout punch is coming. And, you know, if it happens, you want to be able to have that moment. This isn't it, but I think somewhere else I have, he kicked him and knocked him out, and I was lucky to get that. MMA is difficult to shoot because you're shooting through chain link fence, and the focus searches and the action's fast.
Are you shooting about 1,000th of a second and leaving everything else to auto?
No, I shoot all manual. Depending on the sport, I like to keep, for sports, yes, I keep the shutter speed as high as possible. But then my other concern is the depth of field, because you want to get a couple of players in focus. Sometimes the ball's in focus and his face is not. So you need enough depth of field to cover all of that, but not so much that they kind of blend into the background. I like to shoot at f4 or 5.6 at the most to separate the background from the players. Football, I love shooting football, but it is a lot of work. So for me, I'd have to drive down to the Bay Area, carry the heavy gear into the stadium, go, you know, get the vest and get down onto the field. It's up and down the stairs, and then carrying, you know, if you know what a 600 f4 lens is like, it weighs a ton. So I have two cameras, one with a 600, one with a 2-4, and then I have a 70 to 200, and sometimes a wide angle just in case. But you have to kneel. They require the photographers not to stand up, but you have to kneel on the grass. And as the play moves, you stand up and you got to carry all that stuff a few yards down and stay ahead of the game. And then just as you settle in, the quarter is over and you have to go the other way. And it's hard work, but it is a lot of fun. And it's an all-day thing, so.
So post-processing manipulation.
Great question. So, yes, she asked what I can do in post-processing with these photos. I can crop them. I can. The objective is to make it look as authentic as I remember seeing it in real life. So I can adjust the contrast and tweak the color to make it look correct, and maybe a little sharpening, but that's it. So I can't remove anything. I can't add anything. I can't clone anything out. If there's distracting elements, sometimes cropping them out is the way to go. But otherwise, whatever's in that frame is in the frame. I can't manipulate what was really there. And that is a hard rule. What I mean by hard rule is it's easy to follow, but it is an absolute. Because I've had people tell me, "Oh no, I've seen guys do that," and you know, there's some famous cases you can go online and find that photojournalists have done such things. But what those stories don't tell you online is that what happened after. They were fired. There's a famous one. There was a guy in Afghanistan, I think, and he merged two photos, and he worked for the LA Times, if I remember right. They fired him and wouldn't even pay his way home. It's that serious a breach of ethics to do such a thing. And so every story that you can find online of a journalist manipulating photos like that, there's another side of it, which is they're fired and they never work in the business again. It is a career killer. So I can't do much. What's that? Reduction? A noise reduction, yeah, but I can't remove or change the content. Black and white's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
You're outside, and you're kind of in there. What if you have a dusk spot? Can you not take the dust spot?
No, a dust spot, if it's things that got into the image through the camera, she's asking about taking dust spots out. I can take off dust spots that are in the camera, on the sensor. But if it's a dust spot from a dirt clod that's blowing through the frame, that has to stay. Yeah, that's a good question too. No, I shoot, he asked if I shoot JPEGs. I shoot everything in RAW because of the broader dynamic range, the better color, all the reasons that RAW is superior. The other thing is that sometimes the photos get used in the paper. They're JPEGs by the time they get to the paper. But then later on, they may want to do something more with that requires a little bit more care and a little more precise working on it. Yeah. She's asked who owns the images if I work for a newspaper. So for me, the Sacramento Bee owns everything that I shoot. So I can promote myself with them and I can show them here, but technically I can't do anything else with them. The other thing, this is another good point, professional sports and entertainers that we've photographed, they own the rights to those. So the 49ers own all my 49er pictures. It's their intellectual property. So they allow the press to come and photograph the games and use them only for editorial purposes and nothing else. One of the photographers at the Bee, Paul Kitagaki, shot a 49ers Seahawks game. That was a big game at the end of the season. It was an important game, and it came down to the last play, and the 49ers threw a pass into the end zone, and the two guys went up, and the Seahawks player batted it out of the way and won the game. It was a huge deal. Sports Illustrated put it on their cover that week. And then his friends, Paul Kitagaki's friends called him from Seattle and said, hey, Costco is selling this poster of this photo you took. Well, Costco licensed with NFL, and NFL allowed them to do it, and Paul got nothing because it's not his photo.
Well, I know Michael Zagaris, but he has books out with his 49er photos and Raider photos and these.
I don't know what kind of arrangement he had. Michael Zagaris is the team photographer for the 49ers. And I've seen his book. It's fantastic. He's been, I don't know, he must have gotten those, licenses through the team that he works for. But for us, we don't own them. Anyway, so this is after retirement. Now I do cover the Kings for Associated Press.
Different routes. What would happen if you took a photograph and did a painting?
That's another, if I do a painting of these photos, whoever owns the copyright or the intellectual property has to agree to it. In other words, you have to get permission from whoever owns the rights to the image. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer. But
Well, I'm just curious, I mean, you're really busy, you have to shoot all this. Then you're at the timeline, you have to look through all your photos and then put the ones you think they want, and then how do you get them up?
So that's a great question. How do I edit through these? Okay, so I'll tell you, this is how it works with the Kings, for the Kings Associated Press. The local, the Bee has their own photographers that go to those games and they cover them for the local market. So I'm there covering the game for the visitors market. So if the Dallas Mavericks come to town, I'm shooting for the Dallas area. So I sit there and their deadlines are earlier because they're 2 time zones ahead. So I shoot the first quarter. I looked this up because I was going to bring this up myself. I shoot about 700 frames in the first quarter. That's 25 actual minutes for a 12-minute quarter. And then during the timeouts, or sometimes during the free throws, I'll look through the back of the camera and I can mark the ones I think I like. And so out of 700, I probably mark about 50. So when the first quarter's over, I go back into the workroom, download the photos, and I do what I need to do with them, crop them, tone them. I write a complete and accurate caption for every single. I only look at the ones I marked. So I only look at 50. The rest I never even see. So from those 50, I go through quickly and I go bing, 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 bing. They want about 15 frames. So I take care of all that. I caption them all. And then I can upload them directly to the office in New York, where there's somebody sitting at the desk waiting for them to come in. And I have to do that before halftime. So they have 15 pictures before halftime. Then I go out and I shoot the second half and send some more at the end of the game. So almost always the photos that get published anywhere from those games are from the first quarter. I don't know how things change in the second half a lot. So yeah. Yeah, maybe I can, yeah, so I don't want to mess up the thing here. A complete and accurate caption for AP is, I better read one. I better read one. Find, here is one. Hang on, I gotta get my, my long lenses. Okay, so this one says Golden State Warriors guard Stephen Curry, number 30, drives to the basket past Sacramento Kings guard Davion Mitchell during the second half of Game 2 in the first round of the NBA basketball playoffs in Sacramento, California, Monday, April 17th, 2023. The Kings won 114-106. So they want to know who, what, when, where, why, and the score. So there's a lot of style issues. They want to see the name of both teams in the first line. They want to see if you can read the player's number. They want the number in there. If you can't see the number in the photo, they don't want it in there. It has to be grammatically correct. So they're particular about it because they don't want to have to go back and change the caption because they're looking at thousands of pictures all night long from every NBA game that's going on.
If it wasn't sports particularly, the caption follow a similar rule?
Yes, yeah, even if it's not sports, the caption rules are the same. Who, what, when, where, why, and some context. Okay, where was I going here? All right, I'm gonna kind of go through here quickly. The peak action, offense, defense, ball, offense, defense, ball. The Amgen Tour of California comes through Sacramento about every year. I love it. There's always something. So this was a picture that how many of you know what dragging the shutter is? Where you pan with something fast moving and you use a slow shutter speed and so that the background blurs out into streaks like this. But if you pan carefully enough, your subject ostensibly is sharp. So I wanted to do a picture like that, and I'm panning everyone. I'm panning every time they go by, and I look, no, not good enough, not good enough. They were terrible, and all of a sudden, pow! Well, there was somebody across the street with a flash. He popped the flash, and that froze my bicyclist. It looks like a studio shot. want to try to tell this story quickly. They wanted a picture, the Bee wanted a picture of the cyclists coming into Sacramento over this bridge. And they said, see where you can get to get this angle. So I go out there, there's a railroad, some sort of a device that the railroad has railroad signals on it that goes over the road. So I called up the railroad and they said, no, we don't have jurisdiction over that. You have to talk to the Railroad Museum. I went to the Railroad Museum and they said, shh, well, we could do it, but we would have to have someone unlock the ladder so that you can get up there. And then you have to have proper OSHA approved safety harness and safety chains for the cameras. And we have to approve it. And I said, okay. So I went and bought a harness and a thing and met with somebody. And it took about a week to get this all arranged, and I couldn't be up there when it happened. So I had to have remote control, pocket wizards. And so I'm standing on the sidewalk and then they come by and I just push the button, bip, 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 and then I have to wait for everything to be done. The guy has to come out, unlock it again so I can go up and get my cameras down. Yeah. So this is not offense, defense ball. The second part of shooting sports is to get what they call sports features, which is not the action of the sport, but these peripheral things that happen when the play stops. And this is where the real character of the game is shown, right? It's these side little moments where reactions, sometimes it's the reaction of the crowd or the coach or the whatever. These are way more expressive about the tone of the game than the action is. The action's always intense, but these other, what do you call it? Sports features. If you'll notice, at the day after the Super Bowl, they don't have the front page isn't a picture of the action. It's a picture of the winning quarterback in a shower of confetti. Hand on head. This is the missed putt. What do you notice? Two hands on the head. That's a winner. Okay, so this is a little fun, I think. This is a typical NFL sideline. There's dozens of photographers representing all kinds of publications, come from far and wide, and they're all there. They all have to kneel, they all have big lenses, and they're all shooting the same game I am. It can be a real mess. So I had a game, and the Bee used to have us do a gallery with all kinds of pictures online. And I looked at mine, and then I go online, see what other publications had done with theirs. There was a guy named Christopher Chung, a photographer from Santa Rosa. And I'm going to show you these photos. The first one is mine. This one's mine. And this is his. This is mine. And that's his. Mine. His. Every photo I got, he got the same one, like we were you know, it was uncanny because there were so many. It happens fairly often that, you know, obviously with that many photographers all shooting the same thing, it happens. So at another game, I got this picture. I was really happy with it. I thought, oh, that's kind of cute. And everybody else on Earth got the same thing. Trust me, these are all different photos by different photographers for different publications. Yeah, everybody's shooting. Yeah. I just bought he asked how many frames per second I shoot, and up until just recently, about 10. I always had whatever the top of the line Nikon was. My last one was a D4S. I sold that and I bought a Z8, and it goes 20 frames per second. And I thought, do I really need that? Those are big files and a lot of them, and that will fill up this computer. But I think I shoot for basketball about 2,000 frames in a game. It's maybe 80 gigabytes on the computer. I don't keep all that, but yeah, 20 frames? Yeah. When I started, it was 3.5 frames per second. I had an old Canon F1 and that was the camera, 3.5 frames. I thought I was jamming, but. So these are feature pictures, and this same kind of thing. You see something, you think, oh, you know what? You gotta predict what's going to happen. I see kids playing around with the dinosaur, and I think, oh yeah, no, this is going to happen. It's worth the wait. Do I have time to tell this story? Am I okay? Okay. So this was one of those weather assignments. It was really bad snow, and it had power went out in Pollock Pines. So they said, go up there and get pictures of people suffering in the freezing cold with no. All right. So I go up to Pollock Pines. I'm walking up and down the street, not a soul in sight because the snow is this deep. And I thought, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to knock on some doors. Hi, can I come in and see you suffer? Right. So I go in there, and the guy was really nice, and it was shivering in there. And he was telling me about how bad it was. And he says, yeah, we had to light these candles, and we had to light these little hurricane lamps. And I wanted him to light one, but I can't ask him to do it. So I kept just kind of steering the conversation back. So you had to light the candles, you said. Really? What kind of candles? It was like those over there, and oh, really? I couldn't ask him to do it, but and in the meantime, now that I'm inside this house, my lenses keep fogging up, and I'm thinking he's gonna light one of these. I'm gonna get him to do it, and so I'm wiping this down, and it would fog right up. And I kept asking him, really, God, it must have been awful with this. You know, weren't you cold? And how did you read? And finally, he just, out of the blue, he just went down to light this thing. And I thought, oh, I wasn't ready. I had my camera. I guessed at the focus. I had it on the table, and I pop, 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 pop. Well, this kind of mistiness is because my camera lens was still fogged up. But I got the focus, and there's the picture, right?
What subject asks if you want to do so?
I tell them, just go about your business as if I wasn't here. People struggle with that sometimes, but that's what I say. If I wasn't here, what would you be doing? Well, I do this. Okay, do that. I'll get my picture. I tell them I can't ask you to do anything, so just do what you would do if I wasn't here. They struggle with it. Oh.
The caption of the guy that was lighting the.
Yeah, let's see. Oh. John Dunnigan of Pollock Pines lights an oil lamp in his home in Pollock Pines on Tuesday, November 23rd, 2010. Dunnigan and his family have been without power for the past few days and rely on candles and oil lamps to light the house. Recent heavy snow has caused power outages throughout the Pollock Pines area. PG&E crews were kept busy chasing down power lines broken by fallen trees and branches heavily laden with snow. So I put some of these photos in here because it's my opinion that photos that are accompanying stories should complement the story in one of two ways. I think that the photo should either answer a question that the reader has after reading the story. You know, like what did that thing look like? How did that, you know, who is this person, right? Answer a question. Or it should prompt a question that leads them to read, to find out. And I kind of like the latter. I like photos that are kind of incongruous or quirky, that make a reader look at it and go, what the heck is this? And then they'll read the story. So that's what this is. This is a doll maker making dolls. Not much of a story really, but I think the photo is compelling. This was a church that had set up a drive-through nativity scene. And people drive through. This is one of those where I stood in one spot for a long time waiting for somebody to drive by and be silhouetted like this. But most of them had their heads turned looking, right? I also love to use light. When I started in photography, that's all I could do to learn how to work the camera and understand what those controls did. But after I got good at that, then I'm thinking, oh yeah, now what do I shoot? What do I put in my frame? And I was concentrating on composition and rules of thirds and the golden spiral and all this stuff. And then when I felt pretty good at that, I started realizing, well, I should be timing these things, you know, wait till the person's not blinking or look in my way or something like that. And then after that, it's about, oh, the light has so much more power to convey a sense of feeling about a place. So then I was obsessed with light, and I still love to get multicolored light sources working for me, and I just love it. So that's what this is. This is a bar in Napa somewhere, and the sunlight coming through the window is cool. I was supposed to cover this boxing gym, and I'll go in there and I see that in the front I have all the windows. I could see the exposure was quite a bit brighter. It was a brighter spot than where the ring was, where the action was. So I take a meter reading and I look and I remember, oh, okay, over here by the window, it's 250 at f8. Over here, it's something else. So that if things happen quickly, I know what the proper exposure is for this or this. And sure enough, I look over and oh, here's this great little moment with the guy and his daughter banging away. And I was able to get it while it was still happening. When I get bored with a subject, I start looking for kooky angles. I kind of wish this was a better pair of cards. A couple of aces or something, but no, this is a woman who was playing. This was the woman in the middle with the sunglasses was teaching a class on how to play poker with two women. So it was a bunch of women who were learning how to play poker. So this is. I just told the lady, I said, do you mind? I'm going to put my camera up under your, on your lap for just a minute. So this is just a picture, but the light is really rich, and for that reason, I love this picture. This was a story of the fact that the state capitol has the only mounted CHP patrol in the state. They got guys on horseback there that patrol around the state capitol, and I thought, okay. And as I'm talking to one of them, I said, "You ever write tickets?" "Yeah, once in a while." And I thought, that would be. And sure enough, he pulls somebody over, he waves them over, gets off, and I thought, oh, I gotta get this. And while I was waiting for the process to take place, I'm snapping away, and in the meantime, I see that the traffic light is cycling through green, yellow, red, and I thought, oh man, if it's green when the real moment happens, I'll crop it out. But if it's red, it says something about a traffic stop, and so it happened to be red as he was pulling the ticket out of the book. Couldn't be more perfect in the horse there. So pretty funny. We were in prison. Had to get his name too. Oop. This was a protest at Beale Air Force Base, because I guess the Beale Air Force Base had the drones that were going overseas, and so there was a bunch out there that blocking traffic every day. But again, this great mix of colors and light was irresistible. This is one of those incongruous things. Do you want to know what this is? It's an art installation. So it's like a big dumpster, but painted green inside with this oversized egg in a nest.
Not a real egg.
No, it's not a real egg, but it is a real person. This is my favorite hand-on-head photo. This is a total eclipse. This guy, and this is in Papua New Guinea, and the government had sent out leaflets to all the remote villages, warning them not to look at the sun. And I wanted to do this photo with an old person, right, at home during this thing. And at the last second, he covered his eyes and never saw it. And I didn't speak his language to tell him, you can look. It just, so he missed the thing. Anyway. I put this in as, this is a feature photo and not a news photo. This is one of those mock disaster drills. And we used to have to go to all of them. And it's really hard not to make a picture that looks like a disaster. It looks dramatic, and they got worse and worse as the drillers tried to make it more realistic. Until finally, all of the photographers, we went into the editor's office, we're not covering this anymore because people see this, it looks real, and it's not. So this was one of the last ones we had to cover that way, but then years went by, a new editor came in, and I got an assignment to go out there. So what I did was, I hate to say it, but I show it as a mockery. I don't know if I have the photo in here, I'll find it for you, but all these guys gearing up with their SWAT team things, and a kid on a skateboard goes by, there's a photo. This is not a real thing, right? So you can have that. This is a photo. I put this in here because I broke the rule of thirds rule intentionally here. I put this tortoise, I didn't put him on there. The story is about this lady who had a tortoise rescue down in Walnut Grove, yeah. And I said, so what do? You get a rescue? Well, I weigh them, and she puts it on the scale and stands back, and I thought, oh, that's hilarious. So I took the picture and I put him in the center of the frame because it makes him look more vulnerable and less likely to be able to get out of this. Curious? So every year at the Sacramento Zoo, they gather up all the flamingos and they do a health check. They kind of give a quick checkup on all of the flamingos. So this lady is an ophthalmologist, and she's got, you can't see it, she's got one of those, a light with a scope, and she's checking out the thing's eye. What I like about it is how everything lines up. The eye and the dark side of her cheek and the beak make a line that, okay, and then the orange on the bird's cheek lines up with the crease on her cheek. It's perfect. Any guesses who this is? Stephen Hawking. Okay. I wanted to get a picture like this. I thought that the audience would, when he came out, would be popping their flashes, and I could make a picture where that would suggest stars, because he's a cosmologist. Well, they didn't, but I asked the people that were running this thing, do you mind if I get backstage and stick my camera under the curtain? Oh, no, you'd have to get the permission from the stage manager. So I go to the stage manager, and he says, I don't know, you have to check with them. And they told me to check with you. And he goes, well, okay, then. I did the old, mom, dad. Anyway, so I love this picture. And when people ask me what my favorite assignment was, it would have to be the day I spent with Stephen Hawking. In Hawaii, there's a spot where they put lights on the sand underwater. It's about 40 feet deep, and they put these lights down, and it attracts krill, the little shrimps that come out. And that in turn draws these manta rays, and the manta rays just spend all night just swirling through eating this krill. So it's a popular dive for scuba divers to go down there and just sit on the sand and watch the manta rays swirl around. They come right across your top of your head. Oh, it's just gorgeous. And so this photographer, this is a guy named Doug Perrine, who's a famous underwater photographer anyway. And I think the picture looks as odd as it does because he's standing up. And usually the scuba divers are horizontal, right, swimming, but he's standing up in a pile of rocks like that. He's got that kind of steampunk looking mask and gear on there, and it's just a odd kind of photo.
Oh, are you underwater taking that photo?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been a scuba diver for 52 years.
Right.
In fact, well, this is an aside here. My instructor, this was back in 1972. I was 16 years old, and the instructor was this old guy with thick glasses, and he was just a nasty guy, just cussed, and he was 75 years old and would fall asleep in the dive shop and everything. And years later, I did the math, and I said, wait a minute now, if he was 75 then, that means he was born in 1897. So that's how old I am. So this story, this was about a species of trout, the Lahontan cutthroat trout that had been declared extinct back in 1972. And they found them, and now they've reintroduced them into Pyramid Lake in Nevada, and they're thriving, and people are fishing for them, and they're gigantic. They get like 40 pounds. So as part of the story, I thought, well, it's the fishing, this the thing, right? So I see these guys on the beach, they're fishing, and I said, do you mind if you catch one? Do you mind if I get in there and shoot it while you drag it in? And it didn't take long. I got one. And so I jumped into the water and with my camera, what they call a over-under shot of the fish. I have a Nikon D810, but I have a underwater housing for it. This again is the light, a detailed picture from a lighthouse. People who have been doing photography a long, long time will start to talk about layers. Layers. If you've ever heard that term, it's this depth of elements that just seem to keep going on and on back into the background. There's people looking in the window. There's a dog in the doorway. There's lots of stuff going on here. This is the ballet in Sacramento, and I'm backstage taking pictures. And I'm standing there or kneeling there, resting, and I thought, okay, I'll take a picture and put the camera up to my eye, and it was all, the lights were all fogged up like that because I'd been breathing on the lens. I thought, hey, that's nice. I left it. This takes a second. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I want to show you, get to the end. That's okay. I want to get to, I was worried that I probably had too many photos in here. These are all, this I thought was odd, that there must be something really busy, really interesting going on over here that everyone's ignoring the smartest man in the room. No, this is for real. This is just what it looks like. Okay, I'm getting to the end here. There's some nice light. A parent at the spelling bee. So this is the last photo, and then I'm going to show you a quick little video of how this was made. Every year they have the air show at Mayfair Air Force Base, and there's usually somebody that invites a bee photographer to come out and do something to promote it. So let me see if I can get this going here. Oh, I hope the sound works. Hope you can hear it.
If not, hold the microphone.
Okay, all right. Where the speakers are. Oh.
We're gonna do the same thing. It's gonna be a little bit more uncomfortable because we're gonna twist the vertical. We get some really good light here, and we're gonna, and then we're gonna get, really good a shot, right? We're gonna roll upside down. Wow. This is your first time doing
Yeah.
it?
All right, thank you. Is there time for some questions if? Yeah.
I see a picture. How do I know it's a real picture and not some AI generated?
I don't know how to answer that. Yeah.
I'm gonna give him the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, he asked about telling the difference between a real photo and an AI generated photo. I haven't looked much at the AI stuff, but yeah, I guess it's getting to be hard to tell. Yeah.
Have you done any environmental journalism?
Environmental. Give me.
Environment, related issues?
Well, yeah, over the years, I've done a lot of work on the salmon populations in California and how they've come up and down, how they've affected the fishing, how they've affected the rivers, right? They've redesigned some of the dams so that the salmon can spawn all the way up. So that's one that comes to mind at least. Oh, okay.
So in terms of the photo, like what, a lot of these photos, which are all looked amazing, but like you said, some of them had a kind of an artistic bent, but were still, photojournalism. Like what would you say really sets something? How do you look at something and go, this is photojournalism as opposed to a photo?
So basically, photojournalism is it's a documentation of something real for some purpose for the community. I always just think of it as it's a storytelling picture. It's telling a story. It's like written journalism, but with pictures.
So you've been doing this your whole life?
I've been taking pictures since I was 7.
Yeah.
But I've been really serious about it since maybe the mid-70s and professionally since 1988.
Would you ever wanted to do anything else other than this?
You know what? I didn't know what I wanted to do until I was working in retail for a long time, and I realized I'm spending all my money and all my free time taking pictures, and I thought, hey, maybe that's what I want to do. But I didn't know anything about how to make a living with photography. And I used to think that, well, magazines and newspapers, it's just handshakes and car wrecks. And I thought, I don't want to do that. But I went to Sac City, and that's when I kind of learned, oh, yeah, no, there's really a lot more to it. And I just really loved it. And I was kind of doing that sort of photography anyway. I was really influenced by National Geographic, which is a journalistic publication. And that's all I really wanted to ever do. So, yeah. The story about, okay, this would be of interest to all of you. In South Lake Tahoe, I met a guy, his name was Peter Renzo, and he lived in a regular residential neighborhood in South Lake Tahoe, and he had 3 Siberian tigers, an African lion, a black leopard, and a bobcat living in his house. And I thought, wow, that's cool. So I went up, I got to know him, and I was up there a lot. And his 5-year-old daughter, Nancy, that's the girl, he said, yeah, she grew up with these tigers. They used to be when they were little, they would sleep together, and then their bottles would get switched and they both cry. And he had all these really cute stories about his daughter growing up with the tigers. The one tiger he claimed weighed 1,000 pounds. And I'm telling you, it might have been 1,000 pounds. It was enormous. Siberian tiger is the biggest one that is capable of killing and eating a polar bear. They're enormous. So he's got these things. They're running around the backyard, and he told me there were 2 rules. If they chase you, don't run, he said, because they're cats. And when they catch you, don't struggle. He wasn't kidding. So those are the rules. And more than once, these tigers would just jump at me. One of them, I was up against the wall, and the thing jumped up, put his teeth around. I could still feel it, right around here. And he jumped and knocked it away. And I thought it was really cool at the time, but in hindsight, this guy's an idiot. But we were driving up here, and he left South Lake Tahoe after a while, long after I, was done with that story, and he moved to Chicago Park with them. So he was right here with all these tigers for a while, and now I think he's in Wyoming or some other place. Did anybody ever know about that? You knew about that? Oh, okay.
He was walking on this, I swear to God, this is true, that he walked the.
So he would walk the Panther on Mill Street with a chain, and I think it's where Artworks is, and it was like a clothing store at the time, and for $5 you could get a Polaroid of yourself taken with the Black Panther, and I have it somewhere, but.
Yeah.
And that was Ellen Davis, for those of you who didn't know who was talking. Okay, one more question, and then we need to call.
I live in Chicago Park.
Yeah, he's gone. I looked him up once in a while to see where he is, and he's not here anymore. Yeah.
Okay, last question? No?
Hey, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna take a break. Well, we're gonna take a break, about 15 minutes, and then we gotta hurry up.
People can ask questions if they want to or whatever. So then, on to a sharing moment. So we have Kathy Triolo, and we were going to have Rich Eshelman. He contacted me just prior to the meeting started, and he's injured his neck today, so he's not here tonight. He's gonna bump until May. So we just have Kathy. So as you know, this is where we hear the story behind the image, which I always am enthralled about listening to, how people's images come into being. So I need one more person for May. If you would like to participate in a sharing moment in May, let me know. And I'll take people for June and July as well. So we could have Kathy Triolo. Be okay.
Am I? Oh, thank you. Let's see, can you show the other picture that I've got? This is the second one. There you go. Forgive my heavy breathing here. This thing isn't on right. Couple of years ago, but this happens every year. They have a witch's paddle down in Morro Bay. I don't know if you've seen it, Anne, have you? So cool. It's on Halloween, and there are hundreds of people who are dressed up, and they paddle through the Morro Bay estuary. Well, we didn't know that. I mean, there were 4 of us photographers on a boat, but we did have our camera with us, thank God. And because we had rented one, not knowing what was going on, and we're out in the middle of the estuary, and all these people were coming by. And so I happened to catch this wonderful lady and her husband, I think, who was behind her. So it was both men and women, and you can kind of see in the background, there's a lot of people. So some of you may know that in 2022, I did a series that was shown at Viewpoint Gallery called After Happily Ever After. And I took a bunch of people actually from here, thank you very much for posing for me. And I did a story on, or it was a story on what happens if these fairy tale characters are here in 2022. So go to the next one. I turned this woman into Rapunzel and changed the background, made her hair a bit longer, grunged both of them up, took all the people out of the background. And this is my story of how I turned the witch's paddle into Rapunzel.
No, those are originally season 1 year.
Do you want me to comment on them? I know the story.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so then
So,
next up, we're going to do the
people, we are going to people.
Wasn't the award winners? We're going to do the favorite images.
The what? Oh, the favorite, okay, I forgot. Please.
Okay, so for the month of March, these were the images that you all chose as your favorites. For assigned subjects, Jonathan Beth's picture. Abstract was Ray Vallone. Architecture, Ingrid Lockhart. Birds, Janice Rosner. Oh, we have two, gets a tie, and birds, Anita Duprat. Fauna, Anita again. Flora, Allison Cults. Natural landscapes was from Fred Finney. Night photography, guess who? Douglas Hooper. And people, Mark Rideout. Journalism, Natalia Cominito. Natalia, are you here? Did I mispronounce your name? Travel, Bob Branston. And another travel photo was George Vappel. Creative, Kathy Treehill. Manipulated but realistic, Jerry Thomas. Black and white, Gary Karpstaffner. Color, myself, Mike Shea. Phone was Tom Quinn. So how about a hand for the favorite images? So,
Can we close the door?
yeah, we can. The AC is pushed there.
Yeah, okay. Yes, we'll close the door. Thank you.
Please follow us.
So.
Okay, before we get started on
I think you
our
are commenting on
critique
people.
tonight, first of all,
So
I
we
want to
start
thank
with
our
all your categories.
guest, Randall, again for
Okay.
being here. And as part of our thanks, we're putting him on the hot seat to do some critiquing, which he has graciously agreed to do, even though he hasn't seen the photos ahead of time. So just for a few categories, since we don't want to, he came a long ways to be here. So we're going to start with his categories, which are the people, photojournalism and color categories. And he will be doing the critiquing for these categories. And first up in the people category, how many times can I say that tonight, is keeping my puppy warm.
It's me.
Yep.
Okay. I love the eyes. The kids' eyes, and even the puppy's eyes. I think that I've drawn to faces. Everybody's drawn to faces, and these are great faces here. Especially the kids' eyes in the sweater. I love that.
I didn't say who it was. Was that?
No.
Were you finished, Randall? Was
Yeah.
that okay? Great. So the previous one was the artist was Ed Sylvester. This one is called Mandolin Player.
So this I like for the slow shutter speed. I think without the blur of the instrument in his hands, it might look like a static image, but having those things blurred the way they are, it's like almost having a video of the guy playing that mandolin. I like that, and the great tones too.
And the artist is me, Grace Barrett.
Oh, nice work, guys.
Thank you. Next up, we have family.
They're all on the one bike. I'm guessing that this is in India. Am I right? Whoever?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. I love the colors. It's just a kind of a curious situation to have all those 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually 4 and a baby all on the one bike. I love it.
The artist is Hanu Batha. And next we have Rebecca of Larkin Poe.
Rebecca of Larkin Poe. I love the fact that the background is so clean and everything else is so crisp and sharp. And you've got a great range of tones from bright white to black. The tilt of her head is also really nice. I like that.
The artist is Mike Shea. Next, we have Working Man.
Wow. I'm fascinated by how much crap he's hauled up that tree. Wow, I love this. I don't know how much more stuff he could have on him. Yeah, that's fascinating. I think if I could be, offer some criticism, if the background was softer, he would stand out more, but still all that busy equipment is amazing.
The artist is Darby Davenport.
Nice.
And next is Mad Hatter Red Mask.
Oh. I like that Polaroid edge and the red. I always wonder if I'm looking at a color image that's been turned black and white, or if it's a black and white image that's been toned. But one way or the other, you've got great tones on his skin and the wall in the background. The exposure is really excellent, and I just love that treatment with the red mask and bandana on his wrist.
And the artist is Robert Arnold. And last one in this category is Swan's Auction Gallery, start bid 1,000.
Not sure where this is. So the expressions are compelling. I think that glance, the woman in the foreground glancing kind of sideways at the photographer is pretty nice. And the tones are really nice. This looks like a flash image. I mean, with artificial light. Provocative.
The artist is Shelby Cohen. Now we move into the journalism category. First up is Barry Bonds, 1993 San Francisco Giants.
Really? So I don't mean to be, I wouldn't consider this so much journalism, because one of the things about editing photos for photojournalism is if the subject is looking straight into the lens, most of the editors will say, no, pass on that. Do you have another one where he's not looking right at you? Because that kind of brings the photographer into the photo, and you don't want that. However, it's a remarkable photo.
And the artist is Shelby Cohen. Next in photojournalism is Market Day in Tanzania.
Wow. There's a photographer, a National Geographic photographer, I want to say Alex Webb, whose style is that it's like he can't get enough people into the one frame. And it's amazing that he can do it over and over and over again. And this kind of reminds me of the Alex Webb look, where there's so many people all doing something at the same time. And that are those, I guess those are tomatoes. That kind of ties things in. All the red vest, the red jacket, the red truck, and the red tomatoes. Really nice.
And the artist is Lori Woodhall. Next, we have kite surfer ignores extreme wind and surf warnings in January storm.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, okay, I really love this. It would have been a nice landscape or seascape rather, but you see, you got that person in there. And however tiny he is, it gives the whole scene some scale. And it looks rather monotone except for the sail. So nice work.
And the artist is Ann Westling. And next is Riding the Rails at Condon Park.
Yeah, this works too. The diagonal line of the skateboarder, just that alone would lend tension to this moment. But the fact that I don't think any of the wheels are touching anything emphasizes the tension. I like that. And the background nice and clean, very nice.
And the artist is Bill Osowski. And finally, we have a couple in our color category.
Oh, you pass up some
Right.
beautiful photos.
Here we go.
Oh,
The first for the color is At the Seashore.
yeah. I'm gonna guess that this is a pan shot to kind of soften everything, but it looks beautiful. That would be a real great graphic to put on a wall somewhere. Those colors are delicate and beautiful.
And artist is Suzanne Hambleton. And finally, in this category is the Sierra Buttes Sunrise.
Oh. Okay. Those two colors, the blue and the orange together, are like, I'd have to say my favorite colors to juxtapose. And that really works. I wonder if it's been post-processed to get that blue to come out like that. One way or the other, it looks natural and striking. I think the black in the middle really makes those colors pop. That's a nice choice.
And the artist was Kathy Triolo.
Nice work.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing with us on those
Thank you.
categories.
Those are all great.
So we will also continue going back to assigned subject. First up is Glowing in the Gloom, I think. It should be. Yes, okay, good. Glowing in the Gloom.
Okay, that's me. Can you hear me? Good. Glowing in the Gloom, a beautiful photo that caught my eye and kept it exactly where it needed to go. The red tulip immediately captured my interest, and then my eyes stayed in the photo to enjoy the droplets of water on the green leaf.
The story tells the promise of a not quite open tulip waiting for the sun to come in anticipation. I like the square crop, and the only thing I wonder might be why the tulip isn't as crisp as I think it should be. So again, we're talking about when I saw it on my computer. My guess is that this might be a pretty severe crop that lost the detail on the tulip. So if you wanted to bring back a little sharpness, I think it would be worth running through a sharpening tool, just right over the tulip and nothing else, just to make it stand out just a teeny bit more. Thank you.
Artist? Oops. Oh, and the artist is Ed Sylvester. Next is Raindrops on a Spider Web.
I had fun looking at this one for a while. It's a lot of detail in here. Parts of it are very sharp. The lower left, if you can see it up close, looks very 3D. I enjoy that in a photo. Thinking the spider web must have 10 pounds of water in it. It's pretty amazing. It's kind of a pattern photo, not so much a composition choice, and it works really well. Nice job.
And the artist is Anita Duprat. Next is Driving in a Driving Rain.
This photographer really took advantage of a decisive moment at the right time for this assigned subject of rain. It really made me feel like I was sitting there, afraid to go, even though the light was green, because it was pouring rain. Great job capturing the moment, and I really loved it and loved the patterns.
And the artist is Ray Lurkey.
Go Ray.
Next is Wet on the Way Home.
And this one also has a very rainy feeling to it. The color of the overall photo is surprising. You don't think of that on a cold, rainy night as being warm and yellowy, but it makes it interesting. There's a lot of broken up image in the sky. I'm not sure if it was high ISO or even rain in the air or dirty windshield or underexposure perhaps. So it'd be nice if that was cleaned up a little. The rest of it, I think, is pretty nice. It's a nicely balanced photo and definitely gives the feeling of rain.
The artist is Jonathan Beth. Next is Badwater Basin Series 3 Barefoot in Rainwater.
So I'm really jealous because I love Death Valley. And I feel that the photographer was really lucky to be down at Death Valley at this moment, capturing the lake and Badwater Basin. That doesn't happen all the time. Of course, we all know that this water only accumulates during the rainy season, and then the rest of the year, this is dry, and it's desert. So this photo makes me wonder what it was like walking around with no shoes on in that water, and what the temperature was, and how the sand felt, and whether it was going to rain again. So this was a great story and made me ask a lot of questions, which I love. So many questions that were so evocative. So I have just one suggestion, and I don't know if you could see it here, maybe not, but there were a lot of dust spots in this image. And so just, clean them up. You know how to do it. And if you don't, talk to us. And then an optional suggestion is if the shoes are a little bit dark, and just for fun, you might want to try the exposure just on the shoes to give a little more definition to them. Not essential, but just a fun exercise if you'd like to try and bring up the shadows on that.
And the artist is Emily Weissman. Next is Where's My Umbrella?
And another photo that really says rain. This communicates that very well. And I like the shutter speed that was chosen for the raindrops falling in the background. That got them just the right length. And the bird has water drops all up and down its back. And it's a beautiful bird. Nice subject for this. As far as the cropping goes, you did give plenty of space for the bird to look into to the left. I would have gone a little less on the left, a little more on the right. That's just my taste. I think everything else about this is just right.
And the artist is Bernadette Sylvester. Next is Raindrops in My Garden.
So when I first saw this image, I'm hearing noise behind me. Nice, huh? I said, oh, cool. And then the next thing I said, because it's not quite the same here, so I just want to share my experience with you, is I said, oh my God, my eyes are bleeding, because I love this image, I really do, but the veins were really, really white. And so here, I'm surprised because usually we get the brights really bright here, so I don't know what happened. Maybe it's my computer. So it's just gorgeous with the colors, and if you can bring down the bright faints, but you know, look at it on your computer and see if they're really bright. It was just me hallucinating. I think you'll be happily surprised either way. And you could do that in Lightroom. And bring a little more contrast so that the veins don't take away from the beauty and the drops and the colors that are on here. And the red reflection is a really good reason to wear something red in your garden when you're taking photos. Thanks.
And the artist is Lori Woodhall. And the last one for the assigned subject is Untitled.
This was a noble effort to get a big raindrop splashing, and that section of the photo is really cool looking, and even the reflection of the drops are pretty clear. I wish we were more zoomed in on that part of the picture. I think it's kind of cool. You're setting context. I assume this is a table on a deck outdoors. But then if that's the case, I would have liked to have seen more that it is a table on the deck. So there's some contradiction there for me. And then the tonal range, it's not fully black to white. I think it's too soft in its grays, and a raising of the contrast might also spice this picture up a little.
Thank you for the advice, Douglas, because that's my picture too. All right, moving on into the abstract category. First is, I hope I pronounced this right, Gulf Fritillary.
Wow, this is a great abstract of this butterfly, and thank you so much for naming it so I could look it up, because I did not know what a fritillary was. Was this guy alive when you took this photo? You don't have to answer me right now, but you can tell me later. I love your cropping of this abstract, putting the lower black and white circle in the lower left third. I love the veins running through the image with the eyes of I love the veins right through with the lines of the butterfly skin looking like a weaving. Did just a beautiful job on this abstract.
And the artist is Daniel Chaplin. And next up is Ice Cave Lovers.
This is a beautiful photo of the blue ice. It's just so rich and fun to look at. And it's even richer on a monitor. It's really fun to see all this. The lover on the left to me looks upside down, but creative lovers. I think this picture is perfect the way it is. I would crop slightly off the bottom and slightly off the right. For me, that balance is a little bit better. Other than that, it's just right.
And the artist is Janice Rosner. And last one in abstract is Pelton Wheel.
This is a great abstract of a Pelton wheel. And honestly, I never would have known what it was if you hadn't titled it for me. So thank you very much. I love where you decided to make the crop because there's so much for my eye to enjoy in this image with the rust spots and the different colors and the runs of colors. And if there's only one small suggestion I might make, it's just to get rid of that white spot in the lower left. You can kind of see it right there. And it just doesn't add to the image. And it was a little bit of a snag for my eye. So not huge, just a suggestion, but the rest of it, beautiful.
The artist is June Anderson. Just a couple entries in architecture. First up is Palace of Fine Arts.
I love this view of the Palace of Fine Arts. Assuming it's a drone shot, though, we've never seen this before. Everything about this picture is rich. It's fun to go exploring around. In this photo, the one thing I would change, this projector had the ice picture cropped from the bottom, and now it has this one cropped from the bottom. On my monitor, this white rain gutter on the roof along the bottom, the arches, touches the bottom of the frame. And I was going to ask the artist to give me just a little bit more breathing room, maybe just a 2% further down on the border. With this cropping, I think it would still like that. This cropping does change it though. But it's a beautiful image otherwise, really nice.
And the artist is Allison Colt. And next is Futuristic.
Wow, this certainly is. What an amazing architectural photo that shows so many types of architecture and so many different types of colorful architecture. I'm curious as to where this is because it makes me want to go see it in person. This is a perfect shot for me. That provides a delicious slice of eye candy for every one of us to enjoy. There's just so much to keep us in this photo and keep us entertained.
And the artist is Tom Quinn. Moving into birds, first is Beauty and Grace.
There's a cool picture of an egret taking off, caught at the ideal moment. The shutter speed might have been a little faster. The wings are in motion, and that shows some excitement and some action, but I think they're a little too blurry for my taste. I would also crop a little bit off the top. The tree reflection is a pretty dominant visual element in your picture. Cropping it slightly and then lightening that upper corner slightly, I think would help. The attention go fully to the egret. The rest of it's all pretty cool, what you caught here. Nice job.
And the artist is Janice Rosner. Next is Greater Flamingos, Tanzania.
So this is such a delight for my eyes to feast on colorful flamingos. And a lot of you know that I love birds and love to paint them in Photoshop. So this is eye candy for me. I think that it's really super that you tried for the classic 3 subjects in this image. It's always something to think about when we're taking groups of objects, is that 3 seems to be the magic number. I wish that all 3 flamingos had been in focus, because my eye keeps getting pulled to the back one, and that's not really where you want my eye to stay. I think that if you can't get all 3 in focus, then it's okay just to crop in and show the magnificence of that one single flamingo if you can. And with the new AI tools, it's very easy to remove a subject. So we can look at that, and that's an option for you. I also want to mention I like the relationship between the 3. And it's very easy for my eye to go from one to another to the other. But that again is why I would have preferred all 3 to be in focus. Of course, when you're in Tanzania again, you can do this one. Thank you.
And the artist is Bob Brandstrom. Next, Friend or Foe, Tawny Eagles.
This is a spectacular shot, and the monitor right now is showing a little on the light side. The photographer got the exposure right. And I'm fascinated to see this. I don't think I've ever seen eagles with this coloring. I don't have any constructive criticisms for this photo. I think the cropping is perfect. The timing, the shutter speed, everything came together. This is just right.
And the artist is Anne Westling. Next is the aptly named Barefaced Go Away Bird.
So this is a lucky capture on this entertaining photo of these 2 birds, clearly having some sort of conversation. And I would love to have a caption contest for this one. I love the birds. They are fascinating to look at. They almost look like they're wearing fur coats. If you could see it, check it out on your monitor. It's pretty cool. I love the crop, and I just think this is an amazing keeper, and the photographer should be very proud of this capture.
And the artist is Bob Free. Last one in birds is White-Eyed Vireo. I hope I said that right.
On my monitor, the focus on the beak and the eye and all the head of the bird is so sharp, it's exciting. It's really made this picture, put me over the top for me, but it opened up. The cropping choice, I think, is pretty good. It was a 50-50 call. I think I might have tried taking 15% off the right side and then darkening the bird's wing a little bit that's still showing. And then the bright yellow-green leaf to the left of the beak. Looks like you may have already tried to darken it slightly. I try to inch it down a little bit more. It steals a little bit of the attention from the bird, but the bird is gorgeous in this photo.
And the artist is Daniel Chaplin. Got quite a few in fauna. First up is Elephant's Rain Dance.
This is a cool capture of this elephant. I don't know if it was really raining or if the elephant was pouring water all over himself, but either way, the capture on this is the water that looks like ice crystals coming down. And yet we can still see the skin on the elephant and the variegated trunk. That was a very smart decision in my mind to make this a black and white of the elephant's hair, which includes his or her, I don't know, his eyebrows and the trunk. I mean, you got to see this on one of your monitors. The eyebrows are like Albert Einstein. I love the crop on this. We see one eye and the side, of course, that shows the trunk near his mouth. I can't even imagine suggesting anything that would make it any better than it already is.
And the artist is Rachel Rosenthal. Next is Giraffe for Breakfast 1.
This is one of those real wildlife shots. I found, just to give you feedback, when this first popped on my screen, I found myself wishing the fur on the lion was a little lighter and a little warmer in color, but this is what was really there. It's obviously in shade, and you represented it very well. So other than that comment, just it was something I experienced in viewing it. Other than that, this picture has got everything done just right.
The artist is Bob Brandstrom. Next, we have the king.
This guy certainly does project that he is the king of all he surveys. The processing on this is beautiful. Everything is balanced so well. Nothing is over sharpened. The toning is spot on. You can really feel the different textures on his body hair. And technically, this is a superior image. I only wonder is whether you thought about different crops and played around a bit. You obviously made the decision to keep the right side of the king, and I'm not sure, you'll have to talk to me about this, about your decision to balance the photo this way. I'm curious. And I also wonder if you'd be interested in filling the frame with this lion's face. He's so wonderful, and maybe getting rid of most of the green. It might tell a different story, perhaps not, but as an option, I just thought I'd suggest that. Beautiful image.
And the artist is Bill Wages. Next is Cheetah Repose.
This is an interesting photo because the cheetah's face is way over the right side, and yet it still feels balanced. It's interesting that way. I might have left slightly more room on the right, but with this works. And notice also the photographer has even lighting, and the ears are in focus and the tip of the tail in focus, and yet the background's out of focus. Hard to do, and came out beautifully in this photo. I think it looks like the cheetah's talking. I think this one needs a caption, like, "You're not photographing my good side."
Yeah.
Well, you can take that up with David Wong, I guess. He's the artist on that one. Common basilisk is next.
This basilisk is so interesting and fun to look at. And I hope you didn't get too close to them because they actually do spit and bite. Ask me about that later. The background was a little tricky on this because it's almost the same color as his tail. So I would suggest that you darken the background a little to provide some contrast so that the lizard actually stands out better because his skin matches the rock in the back too. In addition, there's a blurry area right by his head. Yeah, you might be able to see it here. And I'm not sure why, but it's not consistent with the texture of the rest of the image, and it's a little bit distracting. Another suggestion I have for you is when you're taking animals and you actually have a nice shot of the eye here, they should be sharp. This is close, but not as sharp as perhaps it could have been. So the focus on this is interesting because parts of this iguana or basilisk are in better focus and other parts are actually pretty pixelated. So I'm not sure why, and maybe you can tell me later. So to fix this, if you have a program like Topaz Sharpen or DxO Pure Raw, that might help you clean up some of the areas that I've been talking about. But fun image. Thank you.
The artist is Gary Emanuel. Next is Wedged In.
Now, to just cover the technical first, technically this picture is perfect. It's beautiful. All the colors in the monkey's fur are really rich. And I like the cropping that the photographer chose. It's gives some nice variety to what we see. Just be aware as viewers that this could have been cropped in much closer to the monkey and it would still be a solid shot. So there are choices here. I do wish, again, this is cut off at the bottom. In actuality, there's space below the monkey's foot. So the bottom border is perfect in the original image. But I do wish there was slightly more room above the monkey's head and then everything would be set.
And artist is Bob Free. Next is Wild Mustangs of Nevada.
So it seems like wild horses are the theme of the month here. Everybody went out Saturday and we've been out to the Montgomery Pass, and just horses, the wild horses are unpredictable and great for photography. Super great capture, story of a wild Mustang in motion with their eye looking right at you, and I love that. This Mustang is checking us out and drawing us into the image. The lighting and toning on this is really lovely, as well as the clarity of your capture. It's very clean. You can even see the hair growing from under his muzzle in sharp detail. Now, you can't see it here, but you can see it. Look at it. How lucky you are that you had some dramatic clouds in the background to help make this a complete story.
And the artist is George Pelpel. And next we have Levitation.
Good crowd reaction, beautiful little fox running across the snow. I think it's very well done. I have a hunch this may have been a larger image. It was cropped in a little. And the space around it, you could even crop in a little more if you've got the quality. It's kind of too bad the white tail tip got lost in the snow, but there's not much you can do about that. If you carry this image further, I would just get rid of that little black spot in the snow underneath the tail. And other than that, I think this is a really nice image.
And the artist is Anita Duprat. Okay, into our flora category, first is Ananda Tulip Festival.
This is a nice study in color and contrast between the yellows and oranges of the tulip and the blues and greens of the background, which is appropriately blurred, in my opinion. That blur enables us to stay focused on what the photographer has asked us to look at. And that's the beauty of this tulip. If I were really picky, I'd ask for a little more room on the right, but really this is a lovely image and it's well balanced. So thank you for sharing.
And the artist is Jim Bear. Next, we have Dogwood.
Beautiful image. I really enjoyed seeing this pop up on my screen. This overall is fantastic. And at first I thought I had no criticisms at all. And then I thought, if I really printed this and put this up on the wall, I would just doctor a few tiny things. The bright blade of grass that's down in the center bottom beneath the dogwood, I would darken that slightly, and then the cobweb up on the higher right edge, I think I would darken that slightly. Other than that, I really enjoy this image. I love the delicate feeling of the dogwood floating above the cedar behind.
The artist is Tom Quinn. Next is Sand Verbena.
Verbena are such happy little flowers, and they certainly are in this photo. They look like they're dancing. This is a pretty busy photo, and there's really no place for my eye to land and rest. So while there's nothing wrong with having a busy photo of beautiful flowers, I always appreciate a little resting ground for my eye somewhere in the photo. And so that's what I would suggest thinking about when you take photos of flowers like this. How do you do this? Well, I'd suggest selectively picking out clumps of 3 or more and narrowing the field of vision instead of the huge field of flowers. It will give us a closer look at the beautiful details by narrowing it down and just giving me less, because sometimes less is more.
And the artist is Jerry Thomas. Next, we have faux Polaroid flower.
And as a critic, I need to mention that this category isn't supposed to have borders or frames. And Darby told me an interesting thing. There's one of the groups in Sacramento, you're actually required to put a frame on every picture to turn in, except for photojournalism. So that's my frame comment. And I actually, on this one, I love the image. I think it's a very rich, luxurious image of these fabric flowers. And sorry, Robert, I think the frame takes away from the beauty of this image. That's my experience with this one. But I love the photo. I love your in-close cropping. That works really well for me.
And the artist is Robert Arnold. Next is Desert Lily on the Edge of Oblivion.
So I was just talking about sometimes less is more. Here's a great example. There's a lot to look at in this photo, but there's only one flower. And it tells a story of a miracle happening in a desert where there is no water except up in the sky. I love the fact that there's some clear sky in the background, and then there's clearly storm clouds threatening at the same time. There's a lot to look at in this photo, and I really enjoyed spending some time with it. An optional suggestion for you is that, let me look here, that I think the right side and the light rocks are almost a little too bright, just over on the side here. And so maybe just a little darkening of that area, and the lower right of the lily would be a nice touch. You can do a gradient, a gradient to transparent there. And again, that's optional, not at all crucial to the success of this already beautiful photo.
The artist is Eric Ingalls. Next is Flower with Shadow 2.
I like what you did here with the square crop and the shadow off in the corner. And that works really well for me. And I like the vivid colors. I love the colors and the patterns on the petals are great. This whole image is pretty soft though. Somehow focus was lost along the way, unfortunately. So if it can be rescued with a sharpening program, that'd be cool. So the focus is a problem for me. The rest of it all came together very nicely.
The artist is Patricia Levitan. And finally in the category is Utah Mountain Wildflowers.
This is a painterly image with a lot of potential to be very creative. I don't find that the blades of grass are as interesting as the flowers. So my eyes just want to stay at the very top of the image and not even really explore the bottom very much. The photographer must have really enjoyed this moment because it looks like there was sun shining through the grass and the flowers. And I bet there was a lot going on at that moment that made that person want to take this photo. So, and I wish we could have seen that translated into this particular photo. I think though, if you wanted to try ICM, this would have been a beautiful ICM. So you might be really pleasantly surprised to get a beautiful abstract from this image.
And the artist is Jim Bear. Moving into natural landscape, first up, what planet is this table for?
This, the way I read this is the artist thought up two good titles and put them both in there. And my critique is pick one or the other. And my favorite is Table for Four. For what it's worth. Now moving to the image. I like crop. I think this is very consciously cropped and very well cropped. I like the alpengrove on the horizon in the background. There's a dusk blue color cast across it. My inclination would have been to make it a little bit warmer, but I kind of think the blue is interesting. So if that's your artistic choice, I respect that. You found a very fascinating subject to work with, and I enjoyed seeing it come up on my screen so I could see this really unique natural feature.
And the artist is John Siebert. Next is Phantom Falls Vista View.
This is a really beautiful capture of Phantom Falls at Table Mountain. I love the wide vista panoramic style view that's supported by the green hills and the texture of the mountain. My eye follows the water into the gorge, and I love the little tree on the bottom left that's sort of a skeletal remnant of some tree that once lived. A very little suggestion for you on this is that the rocks in the lower right and the far right are a little bright, and as I said before in the last one, I'd encourage you to take down the brightness of the rocks so that they're closer to the darker rocks right next to the bottom right, and bring down the brightness of that wall as well on the right side, since that will do two things. It'll keep our eye into the photo, it'll lead us back into the photo, and not keep us distracted by the brightness of it. But really overall, a very painterly beautiful photo.
And the artist is Monica Hughes. Next is Sand Dunes.
I think when the word expanse was invented, they were looking at this photo. It just goes on forever. The artist put the horizon in the middle, and that, as a viewer, asked me to choose, well, are you trying to emphasize the sky or the foreground? I have the title to go on, Sand Dunes, so I guess you're emphasizing the foreground. There's no real strong one center of interest here, unfortunately. The patterns in the sand in that forward sand dune are pretty interesting. And I would have liked to have seen you zoom in on that and feature that. There are a lot of sensor spots all over here, so it'd be good to get your sensor cleaned and to clean those up out of this picture. The lighting is nice. I like that. So it's a fun scene to see.
And the artist is Emily Weissman. And last one in the category, Lake Tahoe Spring.
I really like this story and the picture of Lake Tahoe. The beautiful vista, the lovely flowers, clearly it's spring. The composition is good. I like the fact that you kept the path in there, inviting us to take a walk around the lake. Well, not really around the lake, but at least that area. The story is really what this photo is about. The challenge of getting any photos at Lake Tahoe is that the middle of the day the light is very harsh and bright, and it's hard to get any detailed nuance in a photo. And what I mean is that the shadows are very harsh, and then everything that's light is too bright, so that it ends up looking like a snapshot. I also wonder if you over sharpen this because it has a lot of artifacts in the sky. I would encourage you to go back to the spot, try and take this again when there are some clouds in the sky, or it's late in the afternoon near to sunset. And will you get a few more shadows and see if you like that time of day better for photography?
And the artist is Gary Emanuel. Moving into night photography, we have Desert Milky Way.
Beautiful image. We've got the Milky Way, the black silhouetted mountain, and a lit sand dune in the foreground, which I really enjoy visually moving down and through this photo. The Milky Way is beautifully done. The sand dune, there's this funny shadow right in the middle of that center part that looks like a shadow of a tripod. I don't think it is, but it's kind of amusing to see it there. Tiny detail, overall, very successful image.
And the artist is Fred Finney. Next is Barren's Street, San Francisco.
This is a nice and very refreshing capture that you entered into the night photography category. I love street scenes, especially at night, and it would be cool if we had a street photography category, hint, hint. These kinds of photographs always make me wonder what's going on in each of the windows in each of the houses. Somebody's taking really good care of their motorcycle here, and they covered it up. It's a very clean street, and for San Francisco. It's more like an alleyway. I love the lines that are going across the buildings that are made by the wood planks, and the street light has a really nice sepia tone. Lots of stories in the foggy city, many leading lines here to enjoy and follow, and things to keep me in the photo and my eye moving around yet staying in it. Great job.
And the artist is Mike Shea. Next, we have Milky Way over the 49 Bridge.
I like this picture. It's fun because it's a Milky Way picture, but the foreground is actually more of the story, and the Milky Way plays a supporting role. I admire that. The river is beautiful, and the old 49 Bridge is there. And then I thought, wait, the old 49 Bridge, that means the photographer is standing in traffic. But I guess the photographer got away with it and lived to tell the tale and submit the picture. So overall, beautiful image. I might have tried to darken the city light way off in the distance up in the sky. But other than that, I love the way this came out.
The artist is Allison Colt. Next is Bisties, Hoodoos Under the Milky Way.
Don't you just love hoodoos? They're so much fun, and there's never any that two look alike. It's always lovely to have a beautiful foreground when you're capturing a night sky to offset and tell a better story. I really like the balance in this photo with more sky and less foreground. And really the only thing I'd slightly suggest, and again, this seems to be my theme of the night, I would bring in a little more vignetting on the bottom so that the bottom of the image is not so bright, but instead is dark and allows your eye to just float right up to the lighter areas of the hoodoo and then onto the Milky Way for the ride.
And the artist is John Sievert. And last is Golden Bay.
Well, it's a really cool photo. It's cool that you went there and went to the scene. I love that area. This is a real compositional challenge. The bridge tower and the lights around the base are the brightest, most attention-demanding aspects of this picture, and yet they're up in the left quadrant of the picture. I was just thinking of different things with this, actually cropping just to get the bottom half of the picture, just right along underneath the bridge deck, actually makes a really nice photo. And then the color cast, it's quite warm to the point where even the sky looks warm. I think I would have shifted it, so at least the sky had a nice, rich, deep blue to it. But the scene is beautiful. I love the long exposure and blurring the lights of the bridge and the surf. That to me is beautiful.
And the artist is Mark Rideout. Moving forward, I think our next category will be travel. Oops. Sneak preview. Is that the first one?
Bravo.
So this is at the end. Yeah, okay, sorry. At the end of the day.
This is a really nice photo, nicely done. The photographer shooting right into the setting sun, and yet these three young men walking towards us have a complete light on their faces. And I just think that's great. It makes this photo so rich and satisfying to look at. And then their very clean, light clothing, mostly light, contrasts the very gritty, dirty city. That's another pleasing aspect of this picture. I would have cropped a slight bit more off the right side. For me, that balances the picture out a little even better. And I'm not talking about a lot, just a little. That's the only constructive criticism I could come up with. I think this is a great photo.
And the artist is Hanu Botha. Next is Luxor obelisk stands at the foot of the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
This is a beautiful travel photo. And if I didn't know better, I would think Bill Wages made it. Because of all the sun stars there shining off the lights in front of the monument. It gives us a sense of time and place and movement, and for the rest of us as well, places for the eye to investigate. It's also very cool that you can see the Arc de Triomphe off in the distance, so it makes it a perfect travel photo of Paris.
And the artist is George Pelpel. Next is 4/8/24 Eclipse Corona.
Well, I'm glad somebody got an eclipse photo into the set tonight. It's beautiful to see. I do have mixed feelings about this being the travel category because I don't know where you were. Could have been anywhere in the path. Somebody whispered Texas back there. Given that it doesn't really say travel to me, it is a beautiful image. And I like the way you made the sun and Corona small in the image. It gave us lots of black space around. Looking closely at it down around 5:30 in the circle, there's a tiny red flare. So you got me curious to know if this is actually a color or a black and white picture. I can't tell. So cool photo. Thanks for submitting it.
And the artist is Fred Finney. And next we have Machu Picchu.
This is an interesting and very different travel photo. Having never been to Machu Picchu, I wouldn't recognize this. Although I bet if you've been there, this might be a common scene. I really don't know. What makes it so interesting is the fog and the silhouette in the background. And I'd like to know your choice of crop. I'd like to hear what your thoughts were on this, because I think all the action is on the right side of the photo. And that if you actually crop it tighter to the right side, you could see and cut off the left, you could see the silhouette in the background even better. Your eye goes there so much easier, and it stays on it instead of getting lost in the fog. One other thing, even though you could have brightened up that stone building on the right, I'm really glad you didn't, because the contrast and texture would have taken away from the beautiful silhouette, which I think is the story of this travel photo.
The artist is Natalia Kominoto. And next is Singapore Super Trees.
Well, I love seeing this photo appear on my monitor, and just for the record, on my monitor, the colors are twice as rich as they are here. It's a really colorful photo, and I enjoy that. And I like that the photographer got it at late dusk and not the black night sky. Makes it even more three-dimensional and richer. The subject is wonderful. What a great subject to photograph. I like the cropping. I'm okay with the perspective, tipping these trees inward. Makes it more dynamic for me in this case. No constructive criticism on this. I think it's a great photo.
The artist is Rachel Rosenthal. Got a few here in Creative Fantasy, starting with Trajectory.
This is an interesting and very creative image. I like that there's a box around this image, keeping our eye in and stopping us from straying out, especially because there's so many lines in there. And I don't know that you can see the box as well here, but there is a bounding box around this photo, and I really like that you did that. I guess this might have been at night since there were so many light trails, and it's fun to look at them all and try and figure out where they all came from. The tones in this photo are very compelling, and I like the gradient that's created in the tones. I also like that you named this Trajectory, which then tells us that you have to make a choice and choose which way you're going to next. Are you going to the left, to the front, to the right? Well, I don't know where they went, but I guess we'll find out.
And the artist is Ellen Davis. Next is Of Figs and Vine.
This works really well for me. I like the vine branches almost coming together at that top border. I don't know why, but I find that pleasing compositionally. I do find myself wishing this had full tonal range. Doesn't really have any blacks other than the border. Everything else, it's a fun visual to explore around in. So it works for me. It's a good one.
Artist is Ellen Davis. Last one in the category, Every Move a Feeling.
Such a creative and interesting image the photographer has shared with us. The title, Every Move a Feeling, tells me exactly where I should be looking in this image. I immediately go to this model's face and see what feeling she's expressing for each particular image and each particular move. The toning on this is also spectacular. It almost gives me a sense of marble statues instead of a live person, like a fresco. I love the way that this was composited so that everybody and every expression is revealed. Bravo, this is a lovely piece of fine art. Douglas.
Yes, and the artist is Douglas Hooper. We are moving into manipulated but realistic. We do have 3 more categories. It's 10 to 9, so we may go a little over, just so you know. But we are moving right along and we're getting there. So first up, in manipulated but realistic, we have Mill Street Reflections.
I really enjoy the very realistic face and then the kind of vague back or reflection that's overlapping her face. And exploring around, it's a fun image to look at. The white mark in that upper pale yellow section, I would just get rid of that. It doesn't help. And then the woman who's in the reflection, as I study more, I see that she's holding something in her left hand. And I wonder, is that a spray with cream or I'm not sure. It doesn't take away from the image enough though, for me to worry about. I think it makes it a successful, interesting image to look at. And I love the colors. That's fun too.
And the artist is June Anderson. Next is Hanging On.
This is a beautifully haunting and nicely colored image. I love the smooth water and the reflections of the pieces of wood. I love the decision about the coloring, and it tells a story that we can relate to, especially with all the rain we've had this year. In my mind, my story says when the waters, oh my gosh, I can't read this. What is it? The story is that I'll question whether this tree is dead or whether it will be able to reappear and there'll be buds on it when the waters recede. So it's very creative and very engaging.
And the artist is Suzanne Hamilton. Next is Table Mountain Tableau.
So I like the color cast. That's normally one of my favorite color ranges. And it gave you interesting or direct feedback. I wasn't really comfortable with the sky for some reason. And I think I figured out what it is, and that's that the warm color cast goes across the blue patches and the white highlights of the cloud, as well as everything else. I think if it didn't overlap those, I think this would be a really complete picture for me. I like the warm color cast on the foreground. It makes a really pleasing image, and it looks painterly. I like that too.
And the artist is Kathy Triolo.
Do you not like Maxfield Parrott?
And the next up is Grass Valley Light Walk Way.
I love this panorama because it gives me an old-timey Disneyland feel, and I'm a big Disneyland fan. I don't know what you did to it, but I love it, and I'd like you to go back and do it again now that the umbrellas are up. That's it, thank you.
And the artist is Jonathan Beth. Next is Old Farm Equipment Medley.
I think it's cool that you put this photo in and put it in this category. We haven't had a photo like this that I can remember being entered. I think it's fun to test the boundaries and try new things. And then looking at the image itself, I think it's really nicely done. I like the diagonal in panel 4, kind of going up into panel 2 and then echoing again in the 6th panel. I like that. The rust as a repeating pattern. I think this was all very well thought out, nicely done.
And the artist is Ingrid Lockhart. Next is Winter Trees.
This manipulated image almost looks like a collage to me. I love the choices of making the trees white and the ground almost like a flowing muddy river. If I were looking at this as a regular composition, my only concern would be that there's no main subject here. And I think it would have been cool to have one main tree as a subject and then these other trees sort of gathering around it, providing support. But that may not be the story you wanted to tell. So I'll be curious to hear from you about your process and your intent later on.
And artist is Patricia Levitan. And finally, we have Toothless in Seattle.
Adorable. I'm enjoying the dog's expression, and the dog's ears are fantastic. I like that the dog's wearing a necklace. And I have no constructive criticisms for this. This is technically beautiful, and it's artistically beautiful, and it's very engaging because of the dog's expression.
And the artist is Darby Davenport. Next, we have Black and White. First is Old and Cold.
Brr. That was my first reaction. It certainly is an old car, and this photo makes me feel cold. Super story, wonderful image. I would have liked to have seen the left side revealed a little bit more as well, but is it a big deal? Nah, not really. I also wonder if the right-sided fender is a reflection, or is it some imperfection on the fender down on the bottom right? I couldn't tell. So I'm really curious about that as well, which means this is a successful photo to keep me looking in and asking questions. Good job.
The artist is Paul King. Next is Study of Cogs.
So you might recognize this as a one individual image from the previous image we saw, the panel of 9 images. And when it's zoomed, this, and before it was in color, now it's in black and white. And taking this as a single image, it works really well. I like the composition. I like the feeling of the metal. The diagonal gear down near the bottom center and that B995 stem are out of focus. They were a little bit closer to the camera. And for this kind of picture, I do wish they were in focus. But everything else comes together for me in this picture. I think it's good.
And the artist is Ingrid Lockhart. Next is Moody Lone Tree.
This is such a cool image and a great choice of composition and crop. I like that you decided to make it black and white instead of color, so that we could really focus in on the relationship to the tree, the clouds, and the land. My concern is that this is over sharpened by a lot. So you really can't tell. Well, maybe if you look at the demarcation between the clouds and the ground. If you look at the tree in the area where the sky meets the ground, you can see a lot of crunchy bits. And to me, that means either too much texture, contrast, or it's over sharpened. I also wonder if this is a cell phone photo, because sometimes when you crop them and blow them up, they get this inconsistent blurry look to some of the pixels. So, you know, go back to this one, see if you can work on it a little more. I know even if it's blown up and it's a little, if it's a phone image, I know that there are more things you could do to this to even make it less crunchy, smoother, and less blurry.
The artist is Monica Hughes. Next is After Hours.
This is an intriguing photo when it first pops up, and then as my eye moves around and tries to figure it out, it's to give you some criticism to help you work with subjects like this is my eye doesn't know where to go. It doesn't know which is the center of interest. And in kind of an interesting metaphor, the walls and the fences actually kind of stop my eye from flowing through it. I like that you brought us the scene, this late night scene with no people, but obviously it's something people enjoy during the day. It's just, I wish my eye knew where to go in this photo.
And the artist is Mark Rideout. Next, we have Serengeti Stripes.
Clearly, this photographer was over in Africa, one of you, we know. What a stunning photo of a zebra. It's perfectly cropped, not overly crunchy. I'm surprised I wasn't eating potato chips when I wrote all these. So in my opinion, perfectly sharpened and in great detail. Here's my only thought. I wonder if you use Lightroom to blur the background, and that's a great idea, by the way. However, I can see the blur line between the raised hair on the, you can't see it here, but I could see it. Between the raised hair on its neck and the background. So I just suggest you fix that, because I think it takes away from the full enjoyment. If you're gonna blow this up and put this in some sort of show, just fix that part. The rest is beautiful.
And the artist is Bill Wages. Next is Hello BW.
This obviously has great emotional appeal. It's so touching and beautiful to see. And technically the photographer handled some sun and some shade and did it really well. So that's all good. And the background is nicely blurred and the two elephants are very sharp. So those are all big successes. And of course, the message being communicated is the biggest, most important thing. As a viewer, seeing it pop up on my screen for the first time, it is, because I didn't see the original scene. I didn't see if you cropped anything out. It is kind of funny to not see the elephant's front legs. The elephant on the left really looks like he's floating through the air to me. But I don't think I would change it. I think it's still a great photo the way it is.
The artist is David Wong. Next is spring fishing.
I always love solo photos, and I really like this one. It tells a great story. I love the fact that you caught a reflection off the line from the person fishing in the back of the boat, you know, that light. I like the fact that even though you didn't plan it, there were 3 people in the boat, my favorite number. I love that you caught the ripples in the very calm water. Now, you can see it on here. Look very closely. What do you see up there? A lot of sensor dust spots, exactly. And just take them out. It's very easy to do. It shouldn't take too long. And also one other suggestion is if you have Lightroom, go in and denoise the original photo of this. If you have already, well, you've already exported it as a JPEG, but go back to your original capture if it's raw and denoise it. You'll find that it cleans up a lot of that grain. And so unless you intended it to be grainy, which is an artistic choice. Thank you.
The artist is Jerry Thomas. Next is Dynamic Desert Storm.
Well, how about that? This looks better up here than it did on my monitor. And on my monitor, it looked too light. So this is a real contradiction. So everything about this photo was thought out really well, done really well. I like the cropping. The subject is very intriguing. And my criticism was going to be to give it a full tonal range, give it some blacks. And darned if it doesn't look great right now on this screen.
Told ya.
Yeah, I'm fooled. So nice job.
And the artist is Eric Ingalls. And last one in this category is Rock with a Story of Water.
This is a really interesting image, and I like the title, Rock with a Story of Water. When I looked at this, I kept looking for human figures in the shadows or human figures in some of the bumps and lumps on the rock. But I just couldn't find anything to really latch onto, so I had to accept that the mystery was not going to unfold to me. I kept expecting this to be like a Douglas Hooper kind of woman melts into the rock thing, but it wasn't. So all in all, this is a wonderful black and white, very nicely processed image, which I have re-entitled Mysterious.
And the artist is Douglas Hooper.
Oh. You did not know that, really?
Wow, good guess, Kathy. All right, well, we're down to our last category, just a handful here. So first one is Table Mountain Sunset.
So back to the monitor screen comparison. On my monitor, this is gorgeous, nice, rich blues and rich oranges, yellows, even magentas. And then right up the top there, for those in back who can't see, that's the crescent moon, which I think adds a nice element to this photo. So we're at Table Mountain, and it's just a really pleasing sunset photo. It stands on its own that way. Good job.
And the artist is Henry Goodman. Next is Banana Appeal.
I love the play on words in your title. Just call me blown away by the fact that you actually used a cell phone to take this image. Wow. You must have gotten pretty close to this guy. Well, it's not sharp. It's sharp enough for me. And I don't think I've ever seen banana slug eyes up close. I love your crop, and the placement is just fine for this, as the green foliage supports the beige and brown banana slug by pointing directly to it. Kudos to you.
The artist is Paul King. Next is Calgary Stampede.
I love this photo. This was taken apparently early dusk, and yet the lights of the features of the carnival down below look like it was taken at night. And it's a cell phone picture. It's like, this is fantastic. So all those elements are great. I like your crop, your choice of composition. There is a strong flare on the right side of the picture, and I'm assuming this was made out of a hotel window, and the photographer was not able to completely block the reflection of the room inside. For what it's worth, when I wanted pictures like this, I'll get a black sweater or black jacket and put it over my head and then move close to the window. And you can pretty much get rid of all the room reflections by doing that. So other than the flare, I think this photo came out great.
The artist is Bernadette Sylvester. And next is I See You.
I love this photo. I love it. It's such a fun picture. But actually what I love is the guy in the orange next to the guy peeking through the yellow bars, because it's such a nice juxtaposition between the guy whose eyes are looking directly at the phone and the guy wearing the sunglasses where you can't see his eyes at all. But there's more. There's the young man who has the headphones on, the people who have the masks on, and it says, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And it just makes me enjoy it even more. Thank you.
And the artist is Natalia Cominoto. And it does it for our critique portion of the night. Thank you to all of our volunteer critiquers, Randall and Douglas and Kathy. And thanks again to our speaker, Randall, for coming out, and to all of you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Drive safe, everybody.
Thank you. Perspective of me, right? So